It's a breezy and chilly afternoon in Texas, and that big Lone Star flag is blowing hard in the wind at Austin's Circuit of the Americas. The first of 4 races for Gridlife's Touring Cup Series is up next, with a field of 24 single-class sprint racing cars on the grid. Among them is last year's championship runner-up Luke McGrew, who starts this race right where he did last year, on the front row. And alongside him, James Houghton, the championship third-place driver from last season. He'll start alongside in second. Hi, everybody. Kyle Heyer, joined by Matt Waldbaum, a GLTC competitor, taking the weekend off here in Texas. Matt, welcome aboard on the pace lap here for this 12 to 15-minute race.
Thanks, Kyle. It's great to be here. I mean, this is a unique seat for me, but I'm going to try to do my best to give y'all a driver's kind of view and perspective of what's going on out there. It's weird to sit here and watch your friends take the pace lap and even see yourself on the intro reel and not be able to go out and take the green flags with these guys, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get this underway. This is the first of many races in the Gridlife Touring Cup season. We start here at Circuit of the Americas. We end at Pittsburgh International Race Complex all the way in October. But let's kick things off with the starting lineup here for Gridlife Touring Cup. Front row, as I mentioned before, the number 7 Corvette of Luke McGrew. He'll start alongside the number 41 TSX of James Houghton. Row 2 is Lawson Crane in the number 137, and then it's Tony Marchev who rolls off 4th in the number 17. Eric Magnuson, a multi-time championship from other organizations in wheel-to-wheel racing, starts 5th in the number 330 BMW, alongside Matan Rosenberg, a young phenom in the number 44 Corvette. James Cather starts 7th in row 4, alongside Michael Hilo, and then it's Eric Jensen and Kyle Hale, Matt, that start 9th and 10th.
Take us through the next few. We have Vitus Aronowska starting in 11th, starting alongside Gary Wimble. On the next row, we have Brian Tyson, number 10, alongside Julio Crispin in the 350Z. The next row, we have Nick Steniford in his bright blue S2000, starting alongside Mike McGinnis. Adam Wood in his all-wheel drive white Subaru is going to be starting alongside Corey Mitchell in the number 79. Kevin Brandy and Kelly Bryant will be on the next row, followed finally by Ernest Mazelis.
Yeah, and Ernie had an issue in qualifying. We saw his car stopped right on the front straightaway. We suspected it was a differential, but Tony Marchev, who has an S2000, was able to help him swap that out. He will start 21st and tail of the field for the first of 4 races here this weekend. This is our only race today. We race 3 times tomorrow, starting basically the first session of the morning at 8 o'clock with our Formula 1 standing start on the front straightaway. Very, very exciting. Stars and stripes here in the Lone Star State as the field works their way through turns 16 through 18 at the carousel. And the championship rivalry between James Houghton and Luke McGrew, it starts today, Matt. Of those two, which one do you think's got the advantage for this first race?
It seems like Luke. I mean, he seemed to have the pace in the practice day, and it seemed to have it in practice. And then maybe in qualifying, Houghton showed that he had a little bit of pace and was ahead of him until the very end. And then Luke put in his last final lap, was able to jump ahead. So he seems to have it figured out. His car seems to be working well. So we'll see after they take the flag, but they'll have the inside line into 1.
The pace car from our buddy Dustin Nixon is going to pull his 350Z off the racetrack. He's out of Dallas, but the field is here in Austin as we get set to go racing for the first time in 2024 for Gridlife Touring Cup. Getting set to go all the way up the straightaway. We get the green flag at the further flag stand at the big gantry here. We will finish at the finish line we just passed. Side by side, nice rows from a handful of brand new competitors here. This can be wild. Green flag, we're racing here in Gridlife Touring Cup, 12 to 15 minutes, and side by side up the front straightaway, it's Luke McGrew that leads Houghton by a nose. On the brakes hard into the first corner. Lawson Crane has a look up the inside, but he's not quite there, Matt, as he funnels through turn 1. This is a challenging proposition for any new driver.
It seemed like they stayed pretty much in line there versus spanning out, which will help all of the competitors get through turn 1 and get down into turn 2. So we see that Luke and Houghton already battling into the S's.
Side by side through the S's. You can't do this. This is so hard to do at full speed here. Typically, turn 2 would be flat. You're to the floor here, but now door to door with McGrew and James Houghton. Can James pull ahead here through the right-hander? Lawson Crane looking from behind him. We're going to try 3 wide, not quite. Right behind him, Eric Magnuson, a multi-time champion, another series, going to be a winner in GLTC today. There's Houghton pulls ahead here into turn 8, Matt.
Yeah, Houghton was just able to get enough momentum around one of those S's, the back and forth. They weren't able to figure out who was going to get ahead, and he'll get just the advantage now. They'll get single file, and then Luke will come back at him, hopefully down the back straightaway.
Defensive line by Lawson Crane on Eric Magnuson in that gold 330 in the background. Eric Jensen up the outside of Aronowskis into the hairpin as well. A handful of new competitors in the mix. Here's Luke. This is a drag race now up this long straightaway from 11 to 12. Here comes Magnuson as well.
Yeah, I don't know if Houghton got a little deep in on the brakes, but Luke seemed to come out of that corner right next to him, and now it's a drag race down this long back straightaway. And then it'll be a test on the brakes if we can moment.
K-Series engine in that TSX. There's a Corvette engine under the hood of that number 7. They almost are dead heat here into turn 12. Look at Crane trying to go up the outside of Magnuson into turn 12. And behind the yellow car, that's Matan Rosenberg with an ALMS livery from 2009 applied to that car. He's in the mix now. 5 cars under a blanket here heading into this tight stadium section.
This is incredible. I mean, we're too wide, almost a full lap in. 2 rows deep. Houghton seems to have broken forward a little bit. Lawson Crane getting an advantage here. Maybe able to jump ahead of Luke here. We'll see how they come into the long carousel.
Long way around there for Lawson Crane, but he was able to hold station into the carousel. This is a very long triple apex corner. Crane's going to pull ahead and into second place now. So Houghton has a 7-car length advantage now over Lawson Crane. It's McGrew right behind. Then Eric Magnuson. Then behind them it is the... Whoa! Big dive there by Magnuson on Luke McGrew. He kind of caught him by surprise there, and Rosenberg waiting in the wings to pick up a spot. Is that Cathers lingering back there? No, that's not Cathers. That's one of our newer competitors, Kyle Hale in the 222.
Big slide by McGinnis there, letting Luke get right up beside him again. I know Luke had a big focus of wanting to start this off strong, and he's falling backwards a little bit. He might be in his own head, getting a little nervous about this, and he'll have to kind of recompose himself to push back forward.
Yeah, Lawson Crane, his only GLTC event in that red BMW in second place. His only GLTC event was here last year. It was top 5 on the weekend, but Luke McGrew struggling a bit here to get back underway as he's got that 330 under his rear wing there. And speaking of rear wings, Matan Rosenberg basically patching one together with parts of James Houghton's car stitched because that car was not stable through the S's. So he's bolted some plastic to the rear bumper to try to get that thing to stick. And Crane is all over James Houghton here, Matt.
Yeah, this is awesome to see from Lawson Crane. I know he did one race with us last year, but he's just right up there in the mix. This year wanting to prove himself with this really competitive group.
The front 2 beginning to pull a bit of a gap. It's maybe 12 car lengths from Crane back to Luke McGrew, who's a bit of a cork in the bottle now as they head up over turn 9 and into turn 10. There's McGrew jumping the curves there. All fair play between the front 2 at the moment, about 5 car lengths between them. I don't think Houghton is infallible here, though. You've got a driver that has plenty of experience at this racetrack behind James, who has been here many times before, but I don't think that can replace being here on the weekend.
Yeah, and once they start battling, or if they start battling, that's just going to bring them right back into Luke's grasp. Luke may be able to run them down. We saw that he has the pace, but we'll see now he has clean air in front of him and less traffic around him to see if he can catch back up.
Down the straightaway now, there's Eric Jensen, Vitas Aronauskis. That's the yellow and black BMW that's going to pull out a line. Jensen in a Scion FRS that doesn't look inside nor sound like an FRS any longer. There's an LS under the hood of that car as well. And around the outside is an MX-5. Oh, sorry, that's Julio Crispin's 350Z. Crispin rejoins us again this season in the 222 of Kyle Hale, who's in this mix as well. Through the stadium section again, lots of over-under and putting power down and getting traction out of these corners. It's all mostly mechanical grip in this section.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels incredibly slow. After you've come down that back straightaway, you're doing 135 miles an hour, hitting brakes, and come through the stadium section where you're just inching it, just slowly getting through these corners, and it just feels like it's taking forever, and you're just relying on those tires to get you there.
Yeah, there's a bit of a sandwich now with Matan Rosenberg in the middle of it. Eric Magnuson beginning to fall off. He was very, very good in the opening laps of this race. Matt, these races are pretty short. Can you burn your stuff up pretty quick? Can you overheat your tires? Is that what we're dealing with, or is it something else?
It's probably a little bit too early for that, but you can definitely overheat your tires. These 200 treadwear tires, depending on which one you select may be faster on a 1-lap pace, or they may last a little bit longer over the 15-minute period.
Up into turn 1, James Houghton continues to lead over Lawson Crane. And you can see we're looking at 3 lap times here, and Luke McGrew. It's going to go back on Lawson Crane. Where did Luke come from? All of a sudden, he's back battling for second. They're side by side into the S's. That's very, very tight there. Almost contact as they give each other plenty of space, but the track just narrows up so much from turn 1 to turn 3. And then into the S's. It's all about carrying speed. Front drive TSX leading the way. Rear drive M3 and Corvette chasing at the moment. Look at that slide. And Crane's car looking a little, I don't want to say floppy, but it's just kind of transitioning pretty aggressively, but loading up those tires nicely.
And I think when we cut away for a minute, we just didn't see Luke catching back up. But we go look at lap times. He ran almost a second faster than Houghton and Lawson on that last lap. So he absolutely has the pace. When we see him ruling Lawson in here, I don't know if Lawson missed a shift there, but Luke is going to be right back in this battle.
And he might push Lawson right by James. There's some conversation in the paddock about the top speeds between Luke's car and James's car. It sounded like Luke had an advantage, maybe 2 or 3 miles an hour. It doesn't sound like much, Matt, but it's hard to get.
I mean, you can see see it right here as he's going on by Lawson. Lawson has the wing and the splitter, and he has to take a little bit more weight. Luke has gone the route of no splitter, no wing, to get as much weight out of the car as he can to make it as slippery as possible, and it's paying off.
Clean drive into second place for Luke McGrew into turn 12. Closes the gap to the number 41 of James Houghton, and now looking into turn 13. This is going to make James a bit nervous to see that black Corvette closing in, getting larger and larger in the rearview mirror, looking through that clear spoiler that James's car has. James built this car not for this track, but it really helps at this place, the way that he's built this car, called Bullet TSX, because it's shaped like ammunition. It really is a very slick looking car, but Luke McGrew's looking excellent right now through the carousel.
Yeah, they're both looking great through the carousel. I'd say it's surprising with how well Houghton's car can get through there with so limited aero and front-wheel drive platform, so you're not having the rear end to help slide you around. And you can see here he's getting a big slide through 19, so maybe he's not perfectly planted, but doing super well keeping in front of Luke.
He had the rear end of that thing hung out to Dallas. That was wild there through turn 19. Now up the front straightaway. Luke McGrew is pulling in line. We'll see if James goes defensive. Luke's going to look to the right. Maybe wants the outside to carry speed. Now dives to the left. Can James outbrake Luke McGrew? No ABS on the number 41. But the 7's got the inside lane here through the opening corner, and he's almost clear, but not quite. James will have the inside here for turn 2.
James will have to be working hard, and when he's getting in these weird positions where he's maybe not able to run the optimal line, he'll have to be shifting up and down that gearbox. He has some pretty close ratios, so he's going to be able to use all of it. But Luke, with all that torque, won't have to do quite as much shifting as they're getting into some of these tight corners.
Yeah, these two up front have raced each other time and time again. Lawson Crane might be the wild card. Big moment for him through the S's as he chases the car sideways across the road. Crane does. Now has a look at Luke McGrew for a second. He is throwing that thing down there, trying to grab purchase on the pavement, and now into turn 8 up the hill towards turn 9 and 10.
You made the point earlier. I mean, he could have maybe scorched these tires, and they're just hot and boiling, and they're just getting greasy, and he's getting aggressive, and it's just going to keep going and going. So he might need to calm down for a little bit and let the tires come back to him.
Yeah, big challenge, I would say, for Luke McGrew to have to contend with Lawson right behind him, because he just can't get comfortable and focus ahead. He's got to be keeping an eye on the mirror as well. And then don't count out that 330, because Magnuson's not too far behind Lawson Crane. So the front 4 separated by about a second and a half up the back straightaway. And again, Houghton looking like he's moving about a half a car width off the racing line. Slight defense here, but McGrew, that thing is like got drag radials on it, basically down here into turn number 12.
Yeah, and that TSX will punch a big hole. That draft absolutely helped him get up alongside here into 12. Let's see if they can stay too hard. Looks like Luke was able to get through. Look at that.
He did, and Eric Magnuson passed Lawson Crane for 3rd place, but I don't think that battle's done quite yet. Lawson has a look up the inside at 13. Could have tried. That's a tough line to maintain, as now they sweep into turns 14 and 15. So McGrew takes the lead over James Houghton, and we've still got time on the clock, a couple of minutes worth, so we could see Nick Stediford and Mike McGinnis at the top of the screen having a great battle into turn 13 as well.
One thing I think we should note is I think Houghton was having a few problems with his car. He was actually looking for a VTEC solenoid. He had one that was unknown that he might put in the car. He had one that was known that was getting delivered to the track. I don't know if that got here in time, but if he's losing some time out of some of these corners, VTEC might not be opening up for him the way you'd want in that Honda.
He told me that he could probably drive around it better than he did in qualifying, but it was still impacting the performance of the car. Now that he's lost the lead, we'll see what pace Luke and James really have against each other, as Luke finally leads a lap after not having led the opening one. Up the front straightaway, Magnuson in that 330 up to 3rd, then Crane 4th, Rosenberg 5th, then it's James Cathers in that number 129. It is Cathers in that car. It was gray the last time I saw it. Down into turn 1, and using all the road there, Crane's a little wide, and behind them it's Michael Hilo and Eric Jensen having their own scrap there in the 350 and FRS.
And let's not forget that it's not just about the track position in this race. We need to be putting in fast laps, because that'll set your qualifying order for the next race. If you look at fast laps now, Luke is leading the way, then Eric Magnuson, James Houghton, Lawson Crane, and then James Cather. So a little bit of a mix-up in the order there if you're just looking at fast lap, which could throw a wrench into the starting grid for tomorrow.
Yeah, it certainly could, and that's our standing start race, which that is going to bring a whole other dimension in, because when you're starting a race from a roll, you get a very different result than when you're starting effectively stopped on the front straightaway. There's the gap now between Luke and James, and for 3rd place, this is hot and heavy here, the 330 and the number 137. Deep in the brakes into turn 11. Magnuson turns in, but a much shallower entry here. Matt, we'll see if Crane crosses him over.
Yeah, he might have thought that Crane was going to go take a look at him, so he might have taken a shallow line there just to defend any sort of look. But that will definitely compromise his exit down the back straight. So let's see how the drag race plays off here.
Up the back straightaway, and you see that gold car pulling a bit of a gap. I think the configuration of Magnussen's car might lend itself a bit better to the straight line pace, but as we've seen, the cornering speed is down. That's the trade-off that you play here in GLTC with all the different modifiers that you can take for different enhancements and adjustments to your car. Everyone's in the same category, but cars make speed in very different ways. Look at Crane trying the outside here at 13. If he could get overlap there, Matt, that'd be a great place to over-under into 15.
It definitely seems like he has an advantage through some of these corners, so he's definitely running a lot.
Oh, that was optimistic. Down the inside, slide in contact with the rear wings. Yeah, a little contact there. That was a bit of a brave move, I think, but Magnussen's going to pull away, and Matan Rosenberg says, thank you very much. I'll take that spot.
You got to be opportunistic when it shows up, and hopefully Matan can keep pushing forward. He's been struggling with putting that car back together. He had made a lot of changes over the winter, but it's nice to see him still running up front, even battling a lot of the things he's working on.
Yeah, James Cather's watching from the rear view, or from the windshield here as he closes in on these front handful of cars. All the battle for the last step on the podium here into turn number 20. Now, we're getting close to what I would think would the end of the race would be coming. There's the white flag as we expect, so one more lap around this 3.5-mile, 20-turn circuit. And the battle up front has fizzled for now, but the embers are glowing hot for third place as they run up the hill towards turn 1. Big red, they call it up here, Matt, and Matan Rosenberg might have a shot at the podium.
Yeah, look at that. And one thing I do want to flag after that last lap, Luke McGrew just ran a 27.0. That is faster than his qualifying time and significantly faster than anyone else that's been in this race. So he came back from that start where he maybe was falling back a little bit and falling victim to some of the traffic. So he's got his pace figured out, and he's just cruising.
Julio Crispin making a pass on Kyle Hale for 10th into turn 1. We saw that. And now we see this, the battle for third, and here it is again, side by side through turn number 2. That one's still going on. So is this one. And I think Rosenberg's car is fairly similar in how it makes speed to that 330, that gold BMW. Matan's car, one of the heaviest and most powerful in the field. That comes with some trade-offs, Matt. I don't think the end of the lap is going to be kind to this 484, so he's going to have to make speed on this back straightaway and have a run into turn 12, I think, if he wants to finish third.
Absolutely. We'll see how this works. Look at him taking that shallow line again. I mean, it's maybe something that he's figured out with that car that works for him, but it does seem like it might compromise running on the back straight. Let's see if Matan can get a good run out of here and what straight line speed he has.
Yeah, didn't get a great run out of turn 11, though, so didn't set it up as well as he could. Here's Hale and Crispin still door to door. They must have gone through that entire sector effectively side by side, so that one I'm sure will still need some talking about towards the end of the lap, but Magnussen putting some distance on the 484 of Rosenberg. As I mentioned in qualifying, the livery on the 484 is based on an ALMS Corvette from 2009. The driver of the car, and of this one, was 5 years old when that car ran and won back at Mosport. Lawson Crane just looking for every way around it, but Matan's not giving him the secret password to get in.
That car is looking like a handful for Lawson, or he's overdriving. I'm not sure which it is, but that you can just tell from just watching on the screen. He is slipping and sliding everywhere. He has the pace, but it's a matter of keeping underneath it.
Side by side here, a little bit deeper in the field, but this is going to be great stuff here. Lawson Crane, while it might be a bit of a handful, he's found some speed through the carousel. Not going to have a run into 19. Matan covers it off very, very well. But maybe down to the last corner, Matan's got the advantage here. Lawson's going to have a look for it, but too far back to really realistically look. Luke McGrew was runner-up in the championship last year, but he's going to start this year with a race win here at Circuit of the Americas. Luke McGrew wins race 1. James Houghton had the lead for a while, gave it up. He finishes second. Behind McGrew, just like the tail end of last season. Magnussen third, Rosenberg, Crane, Cathers, Hilo, Jensen, and Aronowskis. The rest of your, and Hale, by the way, the rest of your top 10. Crispin lost that spot in the last couple of corners as they dueled on the final lap. And it's Gary Wimble, Mike McGinnis, and a handful of others. But, Matt, that was spectacular. Got a little frisky up there in the front. Probably the top 5 drivers, really 3rd through 6th, was the exciting one. Saw a little bit of contact, but the aggression level's clearly high. So the goal is never to hit your buddy. So I'm sure there's a learning experience for both of those drivers there, Matt, but the intensity is certainly there.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll have a conversation afterwards, and generally the conversations are very fun. Very fun, and I understand you were pushing hard, we rubbed a little bit. Most of the drivers out here are just really good friends, so it's more of a come together, learn, figure out what we can do better on the next go-around. It was not a big bit of contact, but we try to eliminate all the bits of contact we can.
Yeah, I think they really just hit wing end plates,
yeah.
which we've had that actually cause accidents before when people had wing end plates that hooked each other, and that's what spun the car out. So I'm sure they'll have a chat. But Luke McGrew, that car did not fire off very well, Matt, but it certainly did the second half of the race. Why is that? Was he swamped by all the action around him, or was it the car not totally up to par yet? Is it a tire situation? Because he shot out of a cannon the second half of the race.
So his car is absolutely set up to just haul down the back straightaway. So he has no splitter, he has no wing, he has a lot of weight, so he can run a lot of horsepower. What that means is he's heavier and he doesn't have as much grip in the corners. And if you think about the first sector of the lap, you're going into turn one, a tight corner, need to be really good on the brakes, and then running through the S's where you need all that grip. And then once he was starting getting swamped by some of the other cars around him, he kind of fell backwards. But once the field started to string out, he was able to just put the raw pace of that car to work and just start passing people.
Yeah, James described McGrew the other day as a perfect driver. Now, I don't think that really goes, it's really true for anybody anywhere, but Luke drives with a lot of precision, and there are times that he turns it up and there's times that he turns it down. I think he's doesn't like to put his car in a risky spot, and I think the distraction from some of the other cars around him also maybe, hey, I don't really want to go side by side through the S's on lap one, so maybe I'll leave that one for a battle later in the race. Luke picks his battles, and this one he picked and won.
The funny thing about Luke is he'll turn it up in paddock. If someone will bring out a new car, fresh new lap, or fresh new livery, and he'll come up and he'll draft you in paddock. Just like, I want to be the first one to kind of put a mark on your car, but he would never do it out here. But he's a great guy.
Yeah, and some of the newcomers to the series, Eric Magnussen, a podium in his first race. That's obviously a very, very good result. Lawson Crane ended up fifth. He's one to watch. Certainly, if he can get that car dialed in a bit more, or at least keep it more composed, I think Lawson's going to be a serious threat in tomorrow's races.
Yeah, I would actually be curious to go over and take a look at what tires he's on. I think the Falkens are the ones to known to get a bit hot and greasy. The Kumos may be ones that last a little bit longer. If I had to bet, he's on the Falkens, but would need to walk over to his paddock spot and take a look.
Yeah, we will certainly find out and let you know more tomorrow. So as the cars roll back into the paddock, we'll remind you that tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central Time, and again, we have a time change tomorrow to worry about as well. We are going to be sitting on the grid on the racetrack. We will start with the Formula One starting lights tomorrow. That's going to be so much fun to watch, so don't miss it. Set your alarms, and don't forget that time change is going to happen, because I forgot about it until this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. If you like the chaos of the first few laps where we had cars mixing up, the Formula One start will absolutely do that, where someone doesn't quite get the launch they want, or they have a really long first gear and they can't launch the car very well. And it can just completely shuffle the field, and it makes for a really fun race.
That's what's coming up tomorrow. Formula One standing start in the next 3 races to finish out the weekend here at Circuit of the Americas. Luke McGrew, James Howden, Eric Magnussen, your top 3. We'll see you tomorrow morning, but there's still more time attack action coming up, and we'll toss it back over to the SLB guys to carry you through the rest of the day. Thanks so much, Kyle Heyer and Matt Waldbaum. We'll see you tomorrow morning.